Your Excellency, highly respected Kassym-Jomart Kemiluli, President of our country.
As slippery as an eel, says the Kremlin elite behind his back. An alternative Medvedev, who defeated Putin. He won't stand shoulder to shoulder in the trenches, but he'll always be in touch.
We will strengthen the comprehensive strategic partnership and allied relations with the Russian Federation.
A friend who makes enemies unnecessary.
We do not recognize Taiwan, Kosovo, South Ossetia or Abkhazia.
President of Kazakhstan Kassym-Jomart Tokayev is a puppet who has stopped obediently following the Kremlin's Karabas-Barabas. They often smile at each other and shake hands for the camera. But what happens behind the scenes is a mystery shrouded in darkness. The edge of humanity was approaching. Putin constantly mocks the head of Kazakhstan and deliberately mixes up his first name and patronymic.
Kassym-Jomart Tokayev.
And Tokayev just looks at the Kremlin thug in bewilderment, though it's clear he despises the boor deep down. Vladimir Vladimirovich smiles. He understands what I'm talking about.
In this case, we find a solution that is encouraging.
Putin does this almost offhandedly, but regularly. Speaks in German with a noticeable accent. Sometimes he pronounces Tokayev's first name and patronymic in a somewhat slurred tongue-twister-like manner.
Dear Kassym-Jomart Kemilovich.
The people of Kazakhstan have already come up with an entire series of memes about this. Of course, the bunker diplomat deliberately mangles Tokayev's name, either to throw his counterpart off or to display the xenophobic, boorish behavior typical of Russian officials.
It's like submitting a petition to the Tsar.
Excuse me, are you not misbehaving at the moment?
Putin picked up the art of rudeness either from the Russian Tsars or learned it back in the FSB. This tactic is often used by intelligence officers. It's a kind of operational psychology used to influence perceived enemies of the regime and to recruit informants.
But I'm a diplomat. I knew the consequences. I knew exactly what kind of reactions there would be.
Putin often uses these KGB-style tactics on his interlocutors, especially those who are unwilling to obey him in everything. And the two-faced eastern leader of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, is a perfect example of this.
I solemnly swear to always faithfully serve the people of Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan can be considered Russia's closest ally. This country was one of the founding states of the Eurasian Economic Union and the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, which was created by Putin. It was precisely the deployment of CSTO troops to Kazakhstan in 2022 that helped Tokayev stay in power and stop the popular uprising.
In fact, I was addressing myself and my allies. That's the first point. Secondly, the deployment of the CSTO peacekeeping contingent was carried out in accordance with the organization's contractual documents. It was completely legal.
The CSTO and Putin also helped Tokayev win the clan struggle, overthrow his predecessor Nursultan Nazarbayev, and purge all of his relatives.
I made the difficult decision to resign as President of the Republic of Kazakhstan.
Nursultan Nazarbayev was president of Kazakhstan for nearly 30 years, starting in 1990. During this time, Tokayev held top positions: foreign minister, prime minister, and Senate chairman.
I feel the dawn of an exciting new era.
But only after so many years did Tokayev finally gain real power in the country.
We express hope that continuity will be maintained, but since Nazarbayev has in fact left his highest state post, we have every reason to thank him greatly for our joint work and to wish him health and success.
To many, it may have seemed that Nazarbayev decided to step down as president so abruptly and unexpectedly of his own free will. But in reality, even here, Putin's underhanded schemes played a role. He had long been fed up with the overly independent Nursultan.
Only that morning, after all, as a good neighbor, I called Putin. He was completely shocked.
On this day, the careerist Tokayev heard the long-awaited and cherished news. The duties of the President of Kazakhstan will be carried out by the Speaker of the Senate, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev.
You know him well. He's a graduate of MGI, MO, holds a doctorate, and is fluent in English, Chinese, and French.
De jure, Tokayev became the president of Kazakhstan in 2019, but up until January 2022, there was in fact a dual power situation in the country. Nazarbayev continued to cling tightly to the throne and did not allow Tokayev to fully spread his wings. Over time, once he settled more confidently into the ruler's seat, and most importantly, secured Putin's support, Tokayev bared his teeth. Sensing his opponent's weakness, he tightened his grip, and the aging leader simply had no chance left.
The old wolf missed his mark. Hotel go missed. Hotel go missed.
It turned out that Tokayev had his own unique vision of how to run the country. And in that vision, there was certainly no place for Nazarbayev or his aging elite.
I know him well. He's an honest, responsible, and reliable person who fully supports the policies being implemented both domestically and abroad.
A bloody January began in the country.
The National Guard was stationed there, and these were no longer just cadets, not simply the police. These were properly equipped guys, fully prepared and ready. You know, they look like American commandos. That's what they were like. They were armed with automatic rifles.
As a result of the protests, at least 225 people were killed. After bloody January, Tokayev concentrated power in his own hands as much as possible. He actively removed all of Nazarbayev's relatives from every comfortable and key position in the state. Many of them ended up behind bars. The final blow to the seemingly eternal ruler of Kazakhstan came when Nazarbayev was stripped of his position as head of the country's Security Council.
As the head of state and as of today, the chairman of the Security Council, I intend to act as tough as possible. This is a matter of the safety of our citizens who are making numerous requests to me to protect their lives and the lives of their families.
To humiliate his predecessor as much as possible and demonstrate his own superiority, the young leader restores the former name of Kazakhstan's capital, Astana. What makes the situation even more ironic is the fact that it was Tokayev himself, then a sycophant and careerist, who once proposed renaming the capital in honor of Nazarbayev, calling it Nur Sultan. In keeping with the unfortunate tradition of former Soviet republics, in the 2022 elections, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev received almost 82% of the votes. At the same time, he knows exactly who helped him move such a heavyweight as Nazarbayev.
What do we need the old man for? He'll die anyway. Shergar, cry, let him go!
Tabaki is well aware Sher Khan never does anything for nothing. And sooner rather than later, there will be a price to pay. Little is known about Tokayev's personal life. At the moment, he is single. Although, when he assumed the presidency in 2019, journalists noticed a wedding ring on his hand, but it soon disappeared.
The first lady of the country is named Nadezhda Davidovna Tokayeva, that's all.
Not only President Tokayev, but his entire family is closely connected to the Kremlin. Tokayeva Nadezhda was born in the Russian Federation. According to Kazakhstani media, it was precisely her Russian citizenship that may have been the reason for her divorce from Kassym-Jomart when he became acting president.
Finding a photograph of Nadezhda Davidovna in open sources turned out to be an impossible task. Kazakhstani people have never seen her next to Kassym-Jomart Tokayev.
If you get a good wife, you'll be happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher. I don't know which is better.
From 2011 to 2013, Nadezhda Tokayeva was the honorary president of the UN Women's Guild, while her husband held two positions at once, Deputy Secretary General of the UN and Director General of the UN office at Geneva. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev's son, Timur, graduated from the Diplomatic Academy of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs and served on the board of a company known for a controversial construction project in Khimki, near Moscow.
In 2014, local residents protested the development of a sports ground, but the project was built anyway.
Nadezhda Davidovna Tokayeva was registered in Moscow as an individual entrepreneur engaged in renting out real estate. She owned apartments, but after 2022, the Russian Federal Service for State Registration hid the names of property owners.
Today, it is no longer possible to obtain such an extract. The property has been removed, just like another 170 square meter apartment belonging to the former wife of the president of Kazakhstan, which is also now classified. Formally, the only possible explanation for this is that President Tokayev is a career officer of the Russian Special Services.
Timur Tokayev owned a 200 square meter apartment here worth almost 230 million rubles. Since 2000, Tokayev's ex-wife has owned at least 5 large country houses in the Moscow region.
Kazakhstan ranks 25th in the world in terms of ease of doing business in our country.
Tokayev even had to hide his own son. In 2019, he changed his name to Kemal, although unlike his mother, Timur does not have a Russian passport. The ruling principle of the elder Tokayev is traditional for many Eastern leaders. He always tries to sit on 2 chairs at once. Here he flatters Putin and emphasizes Russia's leading role on the international agenda.
It must be acknowledged that in today's world, not a single major international issue can be resolved without Russia's participation.
And at the same time, he declares that Kazakhstan will comply with the EU sanctions regime against Russia for its aggression towards Ukraine.
As for the possible circumvention of sanctions, Kazakhstan has unequivocally stated that it will adhere to the sanctions regime. We are in contact with the relevant organizations, and as for compliance with the sanctions regime, I believe the German side should have no concerns about any possible actions aimed at circumventing the sanctions.
And then he once again shows the utmost respect to the Russian dictator by personally greeting him at the steps of the plane at the Astana airport. In his relations with Putin, Tokayev is diplomatic, cautious. He avoids calling the occupation of Crimea an annexation.
We believe that what happened. Annexation is too strong a word to use in relation to Crimea. Secondly, there was no fear or panic, as you say, because, as I have already mentioned, we have absolutely trusting, good neighborly relations with the Russian Federation.
In public and in front of the cameras, they smile warmly at each other and boast about signing a large package of documents. Kazakhstan and Russia, new horizons of strategic partnership. Such an article was published in the Russian newspaper Izvestia. The author is Kasim Jomart Tokayev.
Our countries, amid unprecedented global challenges, exemplify good neighborliness and multifaceted cooperation. The foundation of such cooperation is a community of interests, mutual respect, and constructive political dialogue at the highest level.
With bribes and promises, and possibly even covert threats, Russia keeps Tokayev on a short leash. The Kremlin is actively developing economic relations, particularly the railway and transport infrastructure between the countries, promising assistance in the reconstruction of Gres-2, or even to build the Republic's first nuclear power plant. But most importantly, Putin knows how to manipulate Russian oil. For many years, the Kazakh businesses of Tokayev's relatives have depended on Moscow for selling hydrocarbons.
Here, everything depends on me.
With the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine and Putin becoming a global pariah when, thanks to the Ukrainian armed forces, it became clear to everyone that the devil is not as fearsome as he paints himself, Tokayev began to snap back more often, and at times even openly refused to dance to the Kremlin's tune. The president of Kazakhstan defiantly refuses to accept from Putin one of Russia's highest orders, the Order of Alexander Nevsky. And commenting on Russia's full-scale attack on Ukraine, he declares that he supports the territorial integrity of all states.
The territorial integrity of states must be inviolable. This is a principle. I have always spoken openly and clearly on the international stage.
Despite being an ally of the Russian Federation, Tokayev nevertheless refuses to recognize the occupied territories of Ukraine. Putin's loyal vassal still realizes that one's own interests come first, and that such a precedent could eventually affect his own country.
We do not recognize Taiwan or Kosovo or South Ossetia or Abkhazia, and apparently this principle will also be applied to the quasi-state territories, which in our view are Luhansk and Donetsk.
Tokayev's bold statements became yet another slap in the face for Putin. The Kremlin dictator responded by moving from encouragement to intimidating his CSTO ally.
We'll catch him in the bathroom and finish him off in the sarcophagus.
And the suspension of oil shipments to Kazakhstan was announced immediately after Tokayev's speech.
The official reason was that torpedoes and mines from World War II were suddenly discovered in the waters near the terminal where the pipeline from Kazakhstan ends.
But times have changed. Even the once trembling vassals can see Putin has gone from being an alpha male to a mock warrior. In response to Moscow's actions, Astana blocked rail cars carrying Russian coal on its territory.
Now take off your clothes and give the stuff back. Have you seen this?
Kazakhstan, like Russia's other neighbors, clearly will no longer tolerate Putin's imperial ambitions.
Kazakhstan is threatening to bomb us.
Astana knows well, as long as Ukraine stands, Kazakhstan's territorial integrity is preserved too. After all, Putin has long eyed its northern territories.
As for the border between Kazakhstan and Russia, it was at one time delimited and to a large extent demarcated, confirmed and ratified by the parliaments of both countries.
Of course, Tokayev is extremely cautious. He's playing his own game, never fully taking anyone's side. Kasim-Jomart secretly hates Putin, but he's still wary of him. He's increasingly caught in a split. After all, he could lose either his country or his assets.
Well, it's all clear. Chairs in the morning, money in the afternoon.
Possible?
Money up front.
President Tokayev's family owns luxury real estate in Western countries. His only son, Timur, owns apartments not only in Russia, but also in Switzerland. And the wife of his nephew owns an apartment in Miami. An independent investigation revealed that the Tokayev family possesses a complex network of secret offshore assets. And they keep enormous sums of money in Swiss bank accounts. Kazakhstan does many things in defiance of the Kremlin. For example, since 2018, it has not held Victory Day parades. But at the same time, it tries to smooth things over. Tokayev consistently attends the victory celebration and stands next to the war criminal in Moscow.
The armed forces of the Republic of Kazakhstan. The parade formation of the distinguished air assault troops is currently being formally presented. The parade formation is proudly led by Colonel Almaz Tolegenov.
This year, Tokayev bent even lower. First, he held a parade at home, and then he showed up at the bloody dictator's orgy. It's worth noting that this time, Putin did his utmost, and in the best traditions of the FSB, recruited guests for his celebration using any means and manipulations. The Banka villain handed Tokayev a commendation sheet for awarding his father the title of Hero of the Soviet Union and presented him with the book The Combat Path of Kemal Tokayev and Kasim Boltayev. Putin desperately needs friendship with Kazakhstan right now, and the Kremlin dictator is coming up with various incentives to keep Tokayev on his side. At his initiative, Kazakhstan was officially invited to become a BRICS partner.
But you may leave.
I think I'll go.
Warn you, our reach is long.
In that case, I think I'll stay.
And although the cunning Tokayev did not want to antagonize the US or burden himself with obligations by joining BRICS, he was unable to avoid it. Kazakhstan has become a BRICS partner starting from 2025, as confirmed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Kazakhstan. Astana continues to be economically dependent on its major neighbors, Russia and China, the main members of the bloc. At the same time, Tokayev is showing foresight and has gradually begun to take advantage of disagreements among the allies, spreading his bets.
The head of Kazakhstan is fluent in Chinese. Xi Jinping calls the Kazakh leader a friend and openly assures him China will always be a reliable support for Kazakhstan, regardless of changing circumstances.
With Beijing's backing, Astana was finally able to break its dependence on Moscow and began exporting oil bypassing Russia. Although it should be noted that the main beneficiaries of this have been Tokayev's own family, who primarily profit from these resources.
How can that be, breadwinner?
The Tsar knows what he's doing. The state won't go broke.
Once again, the unruly vassal has wagged his tail in front of Putin, having found himself a stronger and more influential patron. However, he is still not ready to completely remove Russia's leash from his neck. and has now taken on the role of serving two masters.
I managed to serve two masters, and neither of them ever suspected a thing.
After the most recent elections, Tokayev has the right to hold the presidency for 7 years, until 2029. According to the constitutional amendments, he will no longer have the right to be re-elected. Although for autocracies like today's Kazakhstan, that's not really a problem. Putin and Xi Jinping easily solved this issue with their serfs, that is, their voters.
Bark at them.
Which path Kasim-Jomart will take, only time will tell. One thing can be said for certain: Tokayev is not a Democrat, and his family is involved in corruption. At the same time, the leader of Kazakhstan wants to break free from the tight embrace of his senior partners. He is definitely not a friend, not a lackey, and has long ceased to be a puppet in Putin's hands.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.